welcome. My name is Oliver, the owner of KHS Precision Sharpening, keeping Hawaii sharp. You can visit me at keephawaiisharp.com to get all my sharpening service information and my contact information. So in today's video, we're going to go over a very extensive, in-depth teaching of how I sharpen a clipper blade. Okay, so it's going to start with taking it apart, sharpening it, cleaning it, deburring it, checking the socket, checking tension using a scale, and also assembling it back together, making sure that it's properly aligned and oiled and the tension is perfect. And then we're going to finish it by testing it. So first off, I would just like to thank God for my business and all the people that taught me what I know. I wouldn't know anything if it wasn't for them. So Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, one person sharpens another. So Lord, I would like to just thank you for all the teachers, mentors, and uncles that have sharpened me and taught me what I know. I am honored and thankful to pass this information on to anyone who is interested. Lord, let us be quick to listen and slow to speak. Father God, you are a light to my feet and a lamp to my path. And I thank you so much for my life in this amazing sharpening business. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Hello and welcome. This is Oliver from KHS Precision Sharpening. I'm just going to go over how I do clipper blades. There are a few different ways to do it and different people doing it online and different sharpening services, but this is how I was taught, and I did more research, and this is the way that I do it. So here we go. First, I'm just going to take the blade apart. I wouldn't advise using a drill or to start out with. You might want to start with the hand tool. I've done enough of them to where I can do it. You just want to be very careful with the screw itself not to strip them. This is called the socket. This is your spring. This is the little rider that helps on the cutting portion of the blade. So I use a cookie tray here just so I can organize. I got this one set up. I already did some other ones that I'm just going to show you how to do these. So this one in particular has a tooth missing. I generally let them know, whatever client I'm doing, that if there is a tooth missing, it might create, a little bit of a mohawk. So in actuality, they'll have to do maybe a couple passes. They're okay with that, so I'm going to do it. I would tell them if there's more than one tooth missing in a row, I would just get a new blade. Okay, so how I start is I take my spring. Spring tension is one of the most important things in sharpening. You can get it sharp, but if your spring tension is off, you're going to either heat up and not cut, or be too loose and start to pull hair. Or if one side is too tight and the other side is too loose, then you're not going to be even. So what I do is I use this tool. It has a nice little inset in it. And I give it a little press. One more. And then I use my socket tool on the end. I just make sure that it can go in and it's snug. This will put me just a little bit over tension. So this will put me close to 4 pounds. I like to be around 3 to 3.5 pounds is what I like, and what has worked best for me. So later on I'll show you how to relieve a little tension once it's put together. The next thing is, I'm just using a flat surface here. I'm not measuring any tension. I just want to make sure that it's balanced. So you hear a little bit of a rock there. That means that these aren't aligned, and that'll affect your cutting. So I just move them a little like that. A little bit. All very minor tweaks. In sharpening, less is always more. Okay? That's that. Then the socket itself. This is what will hold it onto the clipper blade. If these ears right here are too spread apart, you'll get a rattle. Now I put it on the socket, snug it up, just make sure that it's in line with the socket there, and that's good. Put that in there. Alright. Now the next step that I do is to go on my wheel itself. Okay, so this wheel is by Traco. There are a lot of different wheels out there. You know, anywhere from just a water cold wheel, a diamond wheel, to this wheel right here. I seem to like this wheel. I get plenty of sharpening out of it. You know, as long as you keep it charged and you make sure that it's surfaced right, it holds up very good. I'm looking to take off very minimal metal. You will see a little bit of sparks. I'm not taking off a lot of metal, just the least amount that I possibly need to. They do have these little arms for it. I found out that it was better for me just to use a magnet and do it by hand. First, I'm going to turn it on. I just give it a couple squirts of oil there. And I'm going to charge it. And this is my little formula, my secret blend of herbs and spices. This is just a abrasive compound, sort of like a circular sharpening stone, and I'm just adding the abrasive here. Then I do what's called charging the wheel. There's a lot of little grooves inside the wheel itself, and all I'm doing is getting that charge inside each groove in a uniform pattern. Turn her on. I like to use a magnet, so I'll line it up here perfectly. Then I like to have it closer to the end there, nice and lined up. And you can draw a line here. I have a line set up. I have a pretty steady hand, so I just go right in line. And I'm looking for, on the blade itself, I had already done this one. I decided to do a movie, but I looking for even distribution of sharpening. If you are too heavy on one side, it'll sharpen uneven. A couple passes and I'll check. So I have a good line. I can see that because I just charged it. I have a nice straight line of abrasive here on both sides, which means my back and forth is good and my left and right's good. Now I already sharpened this one, so I'll just do a couple more passes. Alright, looks perfect. Remember, less is always more. I never heat the blade up. Any kind of sharpening I do, you never want to be able to not be able to hold your finger on it. I don't even feel any heat whatsoever here. You don't want to feel any heat. That's very important, even with knife sharpening. You need to be able to always hold your fingers on there for, you know, more than 30 seconds. Shouldn't be hot, or you'll affect the temper of the blade itself. Same thing with the comb, or the cutting edge, I'm sorry. This is a comb, this is the cutter. Check it. I can see I'm nice in line. I have an even pattern. And do one more pass. Alright, good to go. My pressure is very light. basically just using the weight of the magnet, and I have even distribution in between my fingers just to keep it as flat as possible. If you have a little more weight on one side, it will not sharpen even. A lot of sharpeners steer away from ceramic cutters. I don't know why. Well, you can't do them on the wheel, but they're easy to do by hand. And my instructor or teacher did not teach me this, but I did further research and found this sharpening. It's by DMT. It's a dual-sided diamond sharpener. Semi-coarse on one side and fine on the other. So same thing, we're just going to be even pressure. Check it. And what I'm looking for is just an even pattern. There's no shiny spots. And I can see my pattern has reached all the way through the teeth. I had already done this one, so it's good. Then I'm going to switch over to the fine side and do the exact same thing. Alright, now we got it smoothed off, we're all set for the next step. So now I have my blade soaking 5 minutes or so in a special solution that basically degreases any kind of hair or buildup in between the comb. And I'm just going to go ahead and wire brush that off. This process also removes any burr which we created sharpening. So I'll take the cutter. I use a little brass bristle brush to go down, and I'm removing the burr on this part. Now I go ahead and do that. Then I'm going to go ahead and use my nylon brush on the cutting side and do the same thing. And I'm basically just trying to brush out any kind of powder that we had from sharpening and getting any burr that might be left. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and rinse that off. I dry it, and I also use the compressed air here, and I'll blow it out. I gotta turn my compressor on, but that's the way I do it. I always like to blow all the water out here. Okay. Then the next one, I'll do the same thing on the comb. Take it, deburr it, and clean it. Take my nylon, get that residue off of there. Any last deburring, and rinse it off. And do the same thing with the compressed air. Again, my compressor's not on right now. So after I do the compressed air, I give it a little wipe here. And then what I'll do is I set it back into its designated spot. I keep everything. That's why I do only 12 at a time max. Right now, I only have 5. But I keep it in line. If you can see, even in here, they're in the same order line as they were in here. So I put my cutter in there. I love this stuff, LPS. Basically what this does, if there's any moisture left on the blade, this will displace all the moisture. Alright, and I just let that soak, and I'll be wiping that off before we assemble it back together. Now I'm going to finish the rest up, and we'll get to the next step. Okay, now that we've deburred them and oiled them, cleaned them, just going to give them a good wipe. Get the LPS oil off of them. And that oil also helps prevent it from rusting. You want to make sure you get it off the cutting edge itself, because we're going to be using a specific clipper blade oil for that. Okay. Now I have my socket, which is already done. Got my spring, which is done. Put the guide back on, or the glide. Put the socket back in. Take my comb, put it on. Then, I find this to be the most difficult part of sharpening, is just putting the thing back together, perfectly lined up and perfectly tensioned. Now I don't use the drill for this because it's all fine tuning. Okay, so now I get it to about there, just loose enough to where you can kind of move this around. Now I've always had a problem with lining the blade on once it's on, so what I do is I have a bunch of different size Allen wrenches, and I kind of find out which one. I try this one, and I line that up perfectly, so I give it a good straight line there. And then go ahead and tighten it. Alright, and let's see how this one lines up. So, to put the blade on, I'm going to go ahead and use a flathead, and be very careful not to touch the edge of it there. I go under the spring there. I'm going to put just a little bit of oil in this glide here, a drop of oil on each of the ends, one right in the middle there, and then a tiny bit there. Don't need a ton of oil. It's a highly debated subject. You do need to continuously oil your blades, and that's why a lot of the blades will heat up or dull fast, is they're not oiling them properly. But you don't need a ton of oil. It goes a long way. This is great oil. This end is clipper oil. I move it around. Make sure the comb has got some oil around, and then we're going to check our alignment, which is crucial. And you want about a 1/16 to gap in between the end where your cutter comes to your clipper blade. If it's over, you are going to cut your animal. And if it's under, you're not going to get the exact size of it. So if this is a 30, if I'm too far back, it's not going to be a 30. If I'm too far forward, it's going to cut. So you got to get that perfect space in between them, and this Allen wrench happened to be perfect. Got lucky. So I'm also very much in line. I don't know if you can see here. I'm a little set back, but I'm pretty much, if you can see, it's about right. That perfect. That's perfect for me. But as long as it's in a straight line. Okay, so now, this is the important part. This is where we are going to test the tension. Tension is crucial. I have a scale here. There's also some probably better scales that pull and lock so you can get better reading, but I've gotten this one pretty good. Got a paper towel on there, so I tar that. Now it's calibrated zero. So I move the cutter over, and all I'm looking for here, I have a feeling we're going to be closer to 4 pounds, which I start with, and then I ease it off a little bit. Okay, so that's about 4.2, and that's too high. So one thing I also do too, that a lot of people I haven't seen done, is I like to test the tension on both sides. So I'm going to move the cutter. Yeah, that's too tight. Move the cutter over to the other side, and I like to make sure that I get the same reading on that side. See, it's a little higher there, so I can adjust that. What I do, sorry for the tripod here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is slide the comb over. Let's see if we can get away with it this way. There's two different ways. One, You want to make sure it's perfectly aligned. Take a flathead, I go over the socket and under the cutter. Okay, and what I'm going to do is be pressing up on it, and that sometimes will give me enough to change it. So here we go. What are we going to get? All right, I got 3/4 on that, so that worked on 3/4 on that side and 3/4 on that side. So pretty happy with that. I mean, it ended up coming out good. I just check it a few times. You know, it's hard with this scale. I would recommend getting the little puller scale that just sets the exact tension. But I'm getting almost the same. If you weren't to get the same, and let's say I go over. Okay, so let's say I had done the spring here. Okay, it didn't work, and I had gone down to, you know, below 3 pounds. By the way, this is the other way to release tension. Make sure you're in the right in the middle. Okay, let's say I went over. Let's just do it. I'm gonna really crank up on that spring and bring it down to, this is gonna be about 1 pound. I don't know if you can see it. All right, well, it was like 1.9 when it started moving. So this will pull here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, pull the comb over, put my flathead in, hold it there, release my flathead. What I did here, they actually make a tool for this, but if you just need to do fine tuning, tightening and loosening, you know, you can use these hand tools. I just cut a little slot in an Allen wrench here. I learned that from a friend. And all I'm gonna do is just a little bit of a tweak there. You wanna make sure you tweak it in the same spot and tweak the same amount. You don't wanna do more on this side, more on the other side. And that's why I do test tension on both sides. Okay, so now should be good. All right, find my flathead, open her up, get back in there. Still feels a little loose, so I'm guessing that's gonna be like 2.5. 2.5, nice guess. That's at 2.9, so I'm a little bit uneven there. So I'm uneven on one side. I do a little tweak there. 2.5 there. 2.6 there. So you can see adjusting. So now I'm under. So I can keep moving. Now I got to tweak just a little bit more. And I always want to make sure that we're still tight here. Okay, so now I'm going to try to get us back up to in between 3 and say max 3.7. But I like to be around 3 to 5. Okay. So make sure we're still lined up, which we are. Okay. All right, 3.2. See how easy it was to get it back up to that? That's good. Now let's go on the other side. And I always switch hands and make it exact. Everything I do on one side, try to do to the other, so everything is perfect. Starting to move at, let's see if we can get it. I got to 3.2. 3.2, 3.2. So, that's done. That's a good blade. Then what we want to do is, of course, test it. I've used a rabbit pelt, used my poor dog, or even a string. So I'm gonna go set up this clipper and show you how to test it. Okay, now that we got it all the tension right, we're gonna go ahead and put it on our clipper here. Gotta push in the latch, put on your blade, and set it. Sounds good, no rattles. I just replaced all the internals of this itself. It wasn't working. I had to put a new cord on. Almost everything. New motor, new bearing, which comes together in one piece. So that's good, sounds good. Couldn't find my dog. And I don't have any rabbit pelts left, so we're going to use this string here. That's a good cut right in the middle. It's a good cut. And 3 good cuts. I'm going to call that good. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned something. My name is Oliver Cosell, the owner of KHS Precision Sharpening, keeping Hawaii sharp with aloha. You can check me out at keephawaiisharp.com. I hope that you learned something, and I will see you next time. Ahuiho and aloha.